I was between my junior and senior year, I started driving a garbage truck, and I just thought that so that seed sort of came back, and I was like, oh, this is really, I love that. I love doing it, and it was like I was a grown up because I was working with all grown up people, and that got me interested in the waste business.
You pretty much stayed with trucks and the industry that you were familiar with. How did you grow it to, what is it, 45 million in sales, up to 150 people? Welcome back to another episode of the Inside Scoop with Robyn, featuring extraordinary entrepreneurs making a positive impact. And I am so excited to have Mike Malatesta here today. He is absolutely an extraordinary entrepreneur, and soon you're going to find out why. Mike has founded and led two companies, both over 8-figure companies, and he's also invested in over 75 companies, and he runs the top-rated podcast for entrepreneurs, How Did It Happen podcast. We're going to find out about that too. So welcome, Mike.
Robyn, thanks so much for having me. I've been looking forward to this ever since we met, so this is really fun for me.
Likewise, I was interviewed on your podcast last month, and I decided, let me ask if Mike would come on mine, because I don't think it's often you get to be the interviewee.
Well, I like being behind, on my side, asking the questions more than I like being asked the questions, but I'm ready to go.
All right. Well, then we're going to dive right in. You're also, in addition to being an entrepreneur, a writer, innovator, investor, and we're going to also hear later about your book that you're working on.
Oh, yes. Okay. Yeah. Ownership. Yeah. Thank you.
Yes. So I want to focus on two things. We're going to talk about how you built and sold your company to a public company. I'm curious about that process. And then we'll also touch on your podcast for entrepreneurs. So okay. Not everybody knows at age 4 what they want to be in life, but somehow you got an inspiring idea to be an entrepreneur at about the age of 4. Is that right?
Well, yeah, kind of. So I didn't know what an entrepreneur was, of course. I had no idea, but I was when I was 4, we lived across the street from a construction company, and I just got really interested in sitting on the curb in the afternoons and watching the trucks and the drivers, come back to the yard. And it just the smell and the smoke and the whole thing of it resonated as really cool for me, because I love playing with toy, trucks and stuff, but seeing them for real was just something amazing. My dad was a truck driver as well. I never got to go to work with him. So this was kind of like my, imagining like, oh, these guys are really cool and this stuff is really cool, so my dad must be really cool, and yeah, it put a little seed in me, like, man, it would be really cool someday to have trucks with my name on the side and that kind of thing. And then it went away for a long time, Robyn, until I went to college. I dropped out for a little while, but then I did go back, got my degree, and along the way, while I was between my junior and senior year, I started driving a garbage truck, and I just thought that was so that seed sort of came back, and I was like, oh, this is really, I love that. I love doing it, and it was like I was a grown up because I was working with all grown up people, and that got me interested in the waste business, and that then became the career that I wanted. But and I thought, at the time, that was in the mid 80s, and none of the people in my fraternity where I was living were talking about being entrepreneurs or owning a business. They were all talking about going to grad school, going to law school, getting a good job. And I was in that too. I just wanted to get a good job, and I thought I had a great job. And I got a job with a waste company. 5 years or so into it, they fired me, and so I was just kind of stuck in a spot where I didn't know what to do. And I think that's when, my mind kind of shifted back to that 4-year-old sitting on the curb outside of my house and having nothing else concrete, to do. Decided to start a business with a friend of mine.
You pretty much stayed with trucks and the industry that you were familiar with. How did you grow it to, 45 million in sales, up to 150 people?
Yeah, well, slowly and disjointedly, and um, sometimes euphorically, and other times, depressingly. But I think the biggest takeaway from our journey was we started. We got started. We didn't know where we were going. We didn't have a grand purpose. We were just creating something that we thought we could do. And as we pursued that with all that we had, energy, grit, money, all of that stuff, opportunities began to, make themselves known. Like we can get into this other part of the business where we actually treat waste, and we can open a location, 150 miles away from where we are, and we can serve, more clients that way, and we can expand our geography. And then, this person applied, answered an ad for us, and look at all the skill sets they bring to our business that we didn't have before. And it was just a you know, I guess I look at it as a progression of byproducts. The first thing we did was to get started. We worked hard, and then byproducts started to make themselves known to us, and we took advantage of the best we could of the ones that did.
Did you ever felt that it was risky or that you might fail?
No. Oh, risky, yes. Fail, no. Although quit is a different word that I definitely felt that from time to time. Like, this is too much. Um, I'm not getting out of this what I want. It's actually, instead of giving me energy, it's taking energy away from me. That's not good. So I definitely had those, but fail. That sounds kind of cocky. But I don't. I just didn't. I didn't think we would fail. We may not do good or great, but I didn't think we would fail.
And would you describe it as more work than you anticipated?
Yes. I didn't know what I was anticipating exactly, but I will tell you that it was, at least until I figured out how to actually, run and lead a business, which came a lot longer. It was, there was always more. I always approached it as, oh, I just have to put more time in. Oh, I just have to put more time in. Oh, I just have to put more time in, because I knew I had that. I didn't know what else I had, but I knew I had that. So yeah, it's a lot. I mean, I think it's always more work than people. Well, when people look at entrepreneurs, a lot of times they see the byproduct of all of that stuff. They see what the result is. They don't see, what it was like going through it to get the result. And that's the part that they really don't want to see, because that's the part that's, the ugly hard part. And people want the easy, a lot of people, they would rather have just the easy, pretty result.
Right. Yes. And they
Right,
often look at maybe the outcome before figuring out really what has to take place to get there.
right, 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 right. Yeah. Well, do you think that? I mean, you know that. I feel like you
I
know
think
that.
that when you get in that zone and you're doing it and you're enjoying it for the most part, you just keep on going. It's just like you
Yeah,
said, opportunities come to you, people come to you when you're ready and you're doing what you're meant to be doing. Then
yeah,
I don't think you often think about that, right? Now you've interviewed hundreds of entrepreneurs, and
yeah.
I know your mission is sharing success stories, and I'm happy that I can share your success story with our audience. Is there anything that stands out to you from all the interviews you've done with these entrepreneurs? Maybe there's something that you wish you knew when you were growing your business that you didn't know or
Yeah.
think about?
Well, I think that, so I'm impressed by people who get it very early in their entrepreneurial journey, that they don't have to do it all themselves, Robin. That took me a long time to get. And I don't want to suggest that I was doing everything. I certainly wasn't. We had a lot of people, but I designed a system in the business where everything kind of came to me. And that worked for a while, gave me energy. I liked doing it and all. But after a while, I started to resent it, and I couldn't figure out why that was still happening because it wasn't apparent to me that one, that was the system I designed, so I was getting exactly what I asked for, and two, it never occurred to me like getting help was for me was being lazy. That's how I looked at getting help. If I need help, that's just me being lazy. I can figure it out, and that so the way I describe it is I kind of built these walls around myself, and they kept getting higher and higher and deeper. So I couldn't get over them and I couldn't get under them.
Right.
And inside those walls, I knew everything that there was to know, Robyn, and I just didn't know everything I needed to know, and that was not available inside of those walls. So for me to ultimately get help was listening to the people that have been on my podcast that get that and have done that. Those are the smart people. Those are the people that I think entrepreneurs like me and you and everyone else should be emulating, because getting help is smart. It's not lazy or dumb or anything. It's smart. And why not get help from someone who knows what they're doing, as opposed to you frustrating yourself trying to figure out how to do it?
And I think that is a common mistake that entrepreneurs make. They tend to take it all on and delegate later, maybe a little bit later than they should have.
Right. Or and like me, or you think you know how to delegate, but you only give people a portion of what they need, and then you expect them to just read your mind for the rest of it, and then you're frustrated with why you delegate and it doesn't get done the way you want.
Right.
So we can be our very much our own enemies. I know I could.
Yes, for sure. That would happen to me as well. I remember I'm sure you've experienced this, where an employee comes to you, Mike, we have a problem, and they want you to have the solution. And one way for me around that would be, yes, okay, you've indicated we have a problem. What would be your recommended solution? So I would try to empower them to give me a solution first.
Yeah, really smart, super smart. And I think I got there later, Robyn, but not early. Early I thought, oh, okay, so this is my job, is to solve the problem. I'll do it. And yeah, and it wasn't helping empower anybody.
Well, I wasn't so fast on it either. It's something I learned after. Yes. So here's a little secret, the inside scoop with Robyn, that for those of you watching may not know. Mike at one point described himself to me as a bit of an introvert. So how does an introvert, Mike, start a top-rated podcast on entrepreneurship and take the host seat?
Okay, so I'll answer that by saying I consider myself to be a horrible networker. I'm better now, but I'm usually very uncomfortable in larger settings where it's kind of like, oh, just pop by somebody and introduce yourself and that kind of thing. But one thing I thought I was good at, Robyn, was actually just having a sit-down one-on-one conversation with somebody. And so when I got the idea of doing a podcast, I thought that that's something I could do and be comfortable doing. But I guess it's just like getting started with anything. But I thought that was a way for an introvert like me to explore my creativity and success stories without being anxious about it. And yeah, it's worked. I don't know. I really enjoy that. It doesn't make me anxious at all, like being in a bigger networking thing does. And I don't picture anybody except you, like when I'm talking to you or whomever I'm talking to. I don't worry about anything else. And so that kind of helps me, I guess, deal with whatever I need to deal with and still get it done.
And kudos for you for starting early in podcasting. For those watching, do you have any tips about if they're starting a podcast, or again, some of maybe your stories that you've learned along the way? Any tips?
Well, I'll tell you how I feel about it. And there are a lot of great podcasts out there. I mean, so many great podcasts. And then there's a lot of, I think think there's a lot of people who get into it and they don't really know why. And maybe I could count myself as that at the beginning too. But I would say if you're not really interested in doing whatever your podcast is about, then you should think long and hard about doing it because, if you're not doing it for your own curiosity or you're not doing it to provide really good value to someone because of what business you're in or how you can help people or something like that, I'd say it, you should probably think long and hard about it. And don't think it's going to be easy. If you don't have a big name attached to you, it's hard to build traction. It's not inexpensive. It's not just like, oh, I get behind a microphone, I do this and I put it up and that's it. It's not inexpensive. And you just really, I think you really have to be invested in what your podcast is about so that you can come across to your audience and to your guests as being someone who's really genuine about what they're interested in. And if you can do all of those things, I think it's definitely worth doing because everybody could be good at it, I think. And everybody could give the world something that has value.
Yes, it's such a wonderful way to elevate your voice. And what I love about your format is you start with pretty much one simple question. How did it happen? How did it happen for you? So I love your podcast. Every episode is very different. You feel like you're really talking one-on-one to the guest, but you bring out so many, you kind of guide them into their story in such an interesting, fascinating way.
Oh, thank you.
And it keeps your attention for sure. And there's no two alike.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It feels good to hear that. I do. I'm very grateful that you said that. Thank you.
Definitely. And so now that brings me to a question about the book that you're working on. Can you share a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah. So it's called Owner Shift, SHIFT. And the subtitle is How Getting Selfish Got Me Unstuck, which sounds horrible because selfish is like a horrible word, but it's actually good. And it's like a philosophical memoir, which I that sounds kind of egotistical too, but it's really about a journey that I went on, Robyn, some of which we talked a little bit about and some of which we haven't, where, I got started because I needed a job. I got started as an entrepreneur because I needed a job. I was out of a job. And the skill set that I had was a good skill set to get me to a certain point. And then the responsibilities or the requirements of the job or the entrepreneurial job began to exceed not my capability, but what I knew how to do at the time. And that caused me to get stuck. Like I call it being in the valley of uncertainty. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs end up there. You get out with a lot of enthusiasm, you have a little bit of success, a little bit of traction, and then you keep inviting things into your world that you think will, that used to excite you and you think will still excite you, but they start to wear on you because of time or because of mental or because of just problems and because of, it being too much responsibility or whatever it happens to be. And we start to be like, oh, I can't do this anymore. Oh, I should get smaller, or, oh, I should quit, or I don't, I want all the good stuff. I don't want any of the bad stuff. We just kind of we can get ourselves into a bad spot. And that's what I ended up doing. And I didn't know the way out. I didn't know if there was a way out. I wanted to get out of that valley, but I also wanted somebody to come and tell me how to do it instead of me, pursuing the answers myself. And that's not going to work. No one's just going to come along and sort of lift me up out of there. But that's what I was kind of hoping for. And slowly but surely, I started to, dip my toe into outside help, like we talked about. I started to expose myself to other people and other ways of thinking. And I joined a program called Strategic Coach, which is a really great entrepreneurial coaching program. I think it's the best, but it's really good. And I learned a lot there. But there's a guy named Dan Sullivan is the founder or co-founder of Strategic Coach, and he's sort of the idea person behind it. And I was listening to a CD of his one day, and he was talking about something at a class reunion or something, and he came to use these 5 words, and he said, "My future is my property," and I'd never heard anything like that before. I've heard about goal setting and I've heard about all of those kinds of things, but basically taking owner of your future, making it your property. When he said that to me, and I thought he was talking directly to me, of course he was not. This was on a CD. That really changed everything for me, because I thought to myself, okay, so if my future is my property, that means I own it. That means it can be whatever I want it to be. That means it's up to me to care for. That means it's up to me to pay for. That means it's up to me to do all the things that ownership requires. And it made me realize that I was not, well, I own the business, but I was not owning my future. I was not creating the future I wanted. I was letting my future be what I was allowing in without realizing that I had control over that. And so I think that's what the book's about, is how how I made that journey, and how I think it can resonate with a lot of other entrepreneurs.
I love the name, Owner Shift. That's great.
Thank you.
So I have 2 quick questions. One is, at what point can you remember where you really felt stuck the most, where in your journey that was just the most frustrating part of feeling stuck, which probably prompted the reason for the book?
Yeah, it was in 2003. So our business was about 10 years old, Robyn. It was in 2003. And 3 things happened to me that year. My father passed away in April. One of my partners, who had been kind of a silent advisor type partner, came into the business with a more, expecting a more full-time type role, and we were a lot alike. And then the third thing that happened in October of that year, one of my other partners passed away in a fire at one of our own facilities.
Oh my!
That happened at one of those. So this late 2003 was the year where I dropped into that valley, and 2000, I didn't get out of that valley until 2006. Wow. So yeah, those were the 3 things. That was the year.
Yes. Wow, that must have been just devastating, and I can imagine.
Yeah.
I know.
Well, it was
2004, and I was in my business. There was just like a hole in my heart, and I felt numb for quite a while. Yeah. It was a shock.
That's a good way to put it. Numb. That's how I felt numb. Like I said, I dropped in that valley. I felt sorry for myself. Like, why would I, that was, and then, as I said, I was just expecting someone to come along and just make it all better for me. Someone to, tell me what to do, show me where to go. And that person doesn't come along unless you start looking for them.
Right. And a lot of times the answers are inside. We just sometimes forget to look there.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait to read your book. It sounds really exciting.
Oh, thank you.
Just going back for a minute on the journey of you selling your company.
Oh, yeah.
Can you remember what triggered the thought of selling it, and how did that take place?
Yes. In 2013, for 20 years, I had 4 partners, and then, 3 when my other partner passed away, as I mentioned. So we had the same partnership for 20 years, which is pretty amazing in a business. The 2 other partners I had at the time in 2013 wanted to redeem their investment, and they were 15 years older than I was. So it was, they'd been there a long time, supported us a long time. It was the right time. So we were able to put that in place, and then I owned the whole business then at that time, or pretty much, and which is what I had wanted for a long time too, Robyn. And things were going along fine. We were, we had a half their payment up front, and then we had to pay the rest over time. And so the company was a little restrained, capital restrained in terms of being able to grow through acquisition, which I liked doing. And I was okay with it. But in 2015, so a couple years in, I got approached by a customer of ours, really, who was also in the waste business, but not doing the same kind of thing that we were doing. But we were doing some business together. And the short story is, they came and they said, "Hey, we want to, have closer relationship with customers. We're looking for a business to buy that can be a platform for us to grow with." And at first I dismissed it because I just didn't think, I just wasn't interested in it. It wasn't something that I thought about. But over the Christmas holiday, I rethought it. I happened to be at a dinner with some people, like 5 or 6 couples, and 3 or 4 of them had sold their business, and they just seemed so happy, Robyn. They were like it felt like they were floating on clouds, And maybe I should think about this a little bit more. So my wife and I thought about it, and long story short, we decided that if we could get to a certain place, it made sense, and we got to that place and sold the business.
That's outstanding. So at first, no, but then you thought about it and came around to yes.
That's right. That's how it happened.
Yeah. And I have a feeling there's no regrets.
No, and it's a waste of time. I made the decision. They did what they were supposed to do, and after that, my job is to help them succeed, do it the way they want to do it. And I stayed on for a couple of years to try to help with that, and then I left and started another one with another group.
Awesome. A true entrepreneur. And I know one of your last podcasts, speaking of entrepreneur, we heard the term want to.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, entrepreneur. Oh, yeah. You just listened to the Aviv. Yeah.
I did. It was a great podcast. Yes, I highly recommend that one. And yes, I can see where he was saying it's a little bit of an overused term, but there's also a true entrepreneur is someone like yourself, someone that starts from the ground up, invests, raises the money, grows the business, sells the business, and then you continue to give back through your podcast, through your book, and through your investing in 75 companies. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah.
So this is a true entrepreneur.
Yeah. Well, I love supporting entrepreneurs. I mean, that's like that's the greatest thing I could do. That's like creating more entrepreneurs and helping them get to a place where they want to get so that they can help people. That's just good work. I think that's great work.
Absolutely. Any other last minute tip or a thought as far as maybe a common thread with your experience investing in these different companies? Are there any?
Yeah, so I would say there's so many great ways to invest modest amounts of money in early stage companies now. AngelList, for example, is a great platform that would allow you to do that. So for me, I got into it to support entrepreneurs, but also for the education, Robyn, because, where I live, I get exposed to things that are happening around here, like most people, but I don't get exposed to all the things that are happening. And when you start doing early stage investing, you get to see ideas and ambition and, companies that, one, I would never think of. Two, sometimes I don't even understand really well what they're doing. But three, it opens my mind to so many things that the people who are around me or aren't doing that just, it just passes by them. They don't hear about it until it's Uber. And I want to hear about it when it's, just in that little, just starting out, crazy idea phase. I just think it's a great education. Yeah. It's like an MBA for me at 55 or however.
Yes. Well, you, like me, you're a lifelong learner. And I think that staying involved like that keeps you young, engaged, and just involved in the community, in the entrepreneurship community.
Right. Yeah. And I think it's where I'm supposed to be right now.
Yes. Well, this has been such a pleasure, Mike, having you here today. And I know how busy you are with, again, your podcast and everything going on. So we really appreciate you taking time to share your personal journey and the wisdom that goes along with that.
It's been my pleasure, Robyn. I enjoy talking to you so much. I hope your audience gets something out of this. And I'm so happy to be on IGTV for the first time in my life as well. So thank you so much for being interested.
Mike, how can people find you and how can they find your podcast?
Okay, well, they can find me at MikeMalatesta.com. It's as simple as that, Malatesta, just like it's spelled, or it sounds just like it's spelled. I'm active on LinkedIn if you want to get me there. I'm Mike Malatesta there. And Apple Podcast, you can subscribe. Podcast is called How Did It Happen? You can subscribe there. You can subscribe on my website as well. And please do, and then share it. That's how it grows, and that's how I do my little part to impact the world.
Absolutely, and I highly recommend it, as I did on the reviews. But definitely subscribe.
With clients featured in the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, Entrepreneur, and more, Robyn Levin is here to share the inside scoop behind the success of entrepreneurs and experts around the world. Looking for more publicity and sales? Now's the time to learn new marketing strategies. Going from unknown to overbooked is not a mystery. Get training now. Visit pr-course101.com.